Assalamu alaikum. It is 10 o'clock, 1st of December, and you're listening to me, Shemiza, on Inspire FM 105.1 FM. It's an absolute pleasure to be in your company this morning, and we are going out to the wonderful people, Luton surrounding areas, Peterborough Salam Radio, and Sheffield's Link FM. Hope you've had a great weekend, folks, and having a great start to the week. As always, the Urban Cube promises to keep you motivated across the day and throughout the week too, with inspirational conversation that I'm going to be having with a fabulous guest. And my guest today will be joining us all the way on StreamYard. We are on Facebook Live, folks. Please do check the Facebook feed on Inspire FM. And if you've got any questions and you'd like to leave a comment, please feel free to do so on the Facebook page and we'll be happy to read them out. And always, we invite any comments to the show on 07779481822. Now, the show that you're listening to is the Urban Cube. It's where I get to have fabulous conversations around creativity with inspiring trailblazers who are local, national, and international. My guest isn't in the studio, but they are joining me remotely. And as I've already said, you can catch them on Facebook. They will be waving to the camera very, very shortly. Now, on today's show, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic. And we're going to be speaking about British Muslims in neoliberal empire and identity, power, society, and what it means to navigate modern Britain through a sociological lens. And in order to do that, I'm joined by no other than Dr. William Barlow, who is a sociologist bringing deep insight into culture, upbringing, and structural challenges. Now, William Barlow is a sociologist and visual artist using pictures and film to explore social issues from a decolonial and restorative perspective. He looks at how grassroots initiatives in Europe and North America navigate societal challenges and finds ways to resist, heal, and flourish. He co-creates fictions, documentaries, and experimental works with community organizers and artists. He has directed the documentary Polish Muslims. He is the author of Young Muslim Changemakers and Muslims in the Neoliberal Empire. And without further ado, I am delighted to welcome Brother William onto the show this morning. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Shemiza. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Now, you have been a friend to the show for many a year, pre-COVID and post-COVID. So it's an absolute pleasure to have you join us back on the show today. And what's been beautiful is you've been sharing your academic findings throughout whenever you've joined the show. So I'm so delighted that the writings, the academic research is published for you to share with us as well. How are you, firstly? How are you, Brother Will?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it's it's this time of the year where the weather gets a bit difficult and the light is very scarce, but it's okay, I'm getting used to it.
And, I always begin with asking, how does the weather look in your area? And you've already shared that. But tell us, where are you speaking to us from today? Describe your setting to our listeners who can't see you on Facebook Live.
Yeah, so I'm in Surrey, so we're just like 30 minutes outside of London, south towards Gatwick Airport, so not too far from the capital, but so it's still very green, very quiet.
Sounds lovely. Sounds really nice. And I don't know whether you know, it's actually National Eat Your Red Apple Day today. Does that inspire you to pick up a red apple?
I'm more like a pear guy than apples.
Ah, interesting. I don't know when it's the last time I had an apple. I think I need to have one. But today, folks, if you needed to know, it is National Eat a Red Apple Day. So go and grab yourself an apple, whatever color it is. It's always good to have some fruit in your diet. Are you somebody that likes to have a big breakfast in the morning?
Yes, yeah, completely. Yeah, that's the routine.
It is indeed. And coming now to your writing, mashallah, it's been extraordinary following your social media pages with extracts from your findings. But I wanted to kind of take a step back, Dr. William. Could you just share with us your journey so far with your research and why this has come about?
Yeah, so to make things simple, my area of expertise is sociology. So I'm like a psychologist, but for the whole of society. So my job is to diagnose problems and try to find solutions. So that's the broader picture. When it comes to my research personally, so I've been guided by my own personal journey as someone who was born and raised in France, embraced Islam at some point, then moved to the UK. So it gave me the opportunity to compare between the context in France, in the UK, and through my travels to other countries in the world. So, for example, what is the relationships and the dynamics between governments and Muslims and minorities in general, but also what are the dynamics within the Muslim communities in France, in Europe, in the UK, and elsewhere. And yeah, so I found a lot of different things, very interesting, some very ugly things as well, but some very hopeful things too. So this is what I'm writing about.
And I love the fact that you put the word in hope there, and that really gives me great pleasure. You're writing the actual title of your research, which is quite extraordinary. Could you just kind of explain that to our listeners, why you decided to give it that title?
Well, the title is not my idea; it's my publisher. I wanted something
Mhm.
very simple and punchy, like "The Diaspora Strikes Back," a reference to Star Wars. But they told me, no, no, we are living in this era where you have to put as many keywords as possible in your title because you have to please the algorithm. So they wanted me to go with that complicated title.
And
Um,
and the title is British Muslims in a Neoliberal Empire. Is that that's the title? Yeah, that's what we're referring to. Well, it is. It is. I mean, it is punchy to an extent, but you would have preferred it to be a little bit more creative. You are somebody that is very passionate about creativity, and I love your page and the writing as well that you've been able to correlate, because there's a lot of influences in this writing from like the creative Muslim art scene. How did you stumble across this creativity?
it's I mean, we don't believe in coincidences, but it was very organic, I would say, because in my journey, I came across lots of very difficult moments and very difficult people as well. And to refer to the title, we live in an era where the society, the culture we live in, pushes us to conform to certain standards, to tick some boxes, the very precise boxes. So you have to speak a certain way, behave a certain way, think a certain way if you want to be given some basic rights, whether, like finding jobs, making friends in the workplace and stuff. And the problem is someone like me that doesn't tick that many boxes. And I had a very painful experiences, like a learning process. So I was always wondering, where can I find people who, like me, don't necessarily tick these right boxes that they want us to tick. And this is where I came across some very interesting places, whether we're talking about community hubs like Rumi's Cave in London, or I come across some initiatives like the charity Restless Beings and their cafe Route 25, which is another extraordinary place with like their ethics and politics are just on point, and some other initiatives, in the fields of mental health, the arts, culture and heritage, community organizing, protection of the environment, and many, many other fields.
And it's amazing to hear this, because I don't think the wider community is familiarized enough with these wonderful organizations who have legacy, and they have a real um, warm opening to the community as well. So the question I want to ask is, like, what is it about these organizations and these groups that kind of like, differ from other spaces for you?
I think the main thing is that they are completely going against the grain. So, if you want to change things. You change the world. You know, when you're young, you really want to make this world a better place. But the problem is, whether it is, the society, culture, social media, everyone tells us that if you want to change things, you need to bring numbers in. You need to get some funding. You need to have very famous people backing your organization. You need to have, I don't know, thousands and thousands of followers. And so, what struck me with these organizations is they all started very, very, very small. And up until very recently, they didn't have, they didn't rely on funding, grants. They didn't have a big like following on social media. They never had big names supporting them, but still they were able to make a huge difference in the lives of the people who either benefit their services, whether it is the homeless in the local area, students, people who read them because sometimes or some of them are just an alternative media, people in the neighborhood, and so on. They actually change lives, and so they showed me that it's possible, even if you're very small, to make wonderful things.
Indeed, even if you're small, you can make wonderful things. That's such a wonderful quote that you've just shared there with us, because we always think it's about who has the biggest followers or who has the bigger influence, and because they've got all these people like tuning into them. But sometimes it's the smaller individuals that are taking tentative steps can have the greater impact. And this kind of like makes me want to ask you the following question. It's like, then how can we better understand ourselves as Muslims in a capitalist world? Because we are driven by the material world, and the material world kind of has such an influence on our day-to-day life and things that make us feel better of ourselves.
It's a very, very difficult thing to do because, especially in a country like the UK, we are bathing up to the neck with consumerism, capitalism, and all these ideas. It's very difficult, if you want to live outside of the normal banking system without a credit or debit. It's extremely difficult to do so. But one thing is, capitalism is very, very simple. It is offer, supply, and demand. So if you see something you don't agree with, something that you think is harming the planet or people, one thing that works and it's very, very simple for us average consumers is to boycott and divesting from the things you don't want. Because if harmful companies and initiatives have less demand, they will be forced to reduce the supply. That's the very simple logic. So, people have become familiar with boycotting some coffee chains and drinks brands. And in the era of the attention economy, where you have people with just, an internet connection spreading harmful narratives online, the same works. Because every single like, subscribe, and follow is a little bit of power we give to these people or organizations. So if more people start to disengage and not giving them these engagement rates. So this is a way where we can shift the balance. And the more people gravitate towards hopeful and practical people who like initiatives and solutions, and the more this balance can shift.
This is a very brave thing for many people to kind of even venture towards, because when you get so addicted to certain patterns, it really takes a lot of courage to make that shift. So how can people then be proactive around this and start to detox?
So once it's about clearing your life from whatever is, harmful or toxic. Whether it's about thinking of what are the products you buy, the things you eat, where are they sourced from, how are they manufactured, what are the consequences of the manufacturing, and once we are able to target like all these like brands we don't agree with because they do harmful things, the other thing is now to redirect our attention to the people, the brands, the initiatives that do things the right way. And it can seem hard to find, but now in the era of the internet, anything can be bought online. It's all about finding in on the internet, where can we find these brands? And sometimes, you don't have to venture very far away, because it can be things in your local neighborhood, whether it's shopping at your local farm shop instead of the supermarket, or a family owned corner shop instead of big branches. And it's about very, very small actions, very simple actions in our daily lives. And little by little, the more people do that, and the more we're able to send the right message.
Indeed. And I think there's a really great message in there as well. It's like supporting your local businesses, supporting the local farmers, and who have been impacted by the competitive capitalist products out there, and the bigger brands. So I think that to do that, there is so much benefit, I believe. And this is something I used to really look at exploring, and I did do really well for a sort of, in like COVID times. I was able to kind of manage my spending. I was managing, also exploring other businesses as well. And then post COVID, I've just got lost again in it. I don't know if that's an experience you guys have had. Please feel free to share your comments on the show today. 07779481822. I am joined by Dr. William Barilo, who is a sociologist bringing deep insight into culture, belonging, and structural change. And we are talking today about a very interesting subject as we're exploring British Muslims in the neoliberal empire, exploring identity, power, and society, and what it means to navigate modern Britain through a sociological lens. Do you have any other tips and advice and guidance for people to kind of break away from their normal spending habits? Oh, you've really kindly mentioned just reaching out to local businesses, doing your research. But what about other parts of our lives away from just purchasing things and being consumers?
Yeah, so one thing the modern society does, is it atomizes people, like families, neighborhoods, which means that instead of being communities, we become individuals. It's become more and more individualistic. So we're talking about spending money, but there's another resource that is often overlooked, which is the time we have. There's also, we have power in the ways we choose to spend our time. And one thing to counter this is to spend time with people around us. So I'm not only talking about their family, but things like neighbors, for example. This is something which is extremely important, especially here in the south of the UK. I see neighbors don't really speak to each other very, very often. So this is something, that can change. We've tried, me and my wife, in our local neighborhood, it is life-changing. It's also, trying to connect with local initiatives, whether, there's an initiatives for example, helping the homeless or other vulnerable people in your local area, or any kind of service we can offer to people around us that connects us, not only with the people who provide these services, with the other volunteers, but also with people who are at the receiving end of these services, which is very, very important. It is something we have lost in our modern days, and this is one of the most important steps to reconnect with each other.
Indeed, and connecting with our neighbours, and with life becoming so fast-paced, I think these traditions, the traditions that my parents kind of instilled, connecting with your neighbours, because neighbours play a very important part in our faith as well. That we should keep our attention on our neighbours to see that they're okay if in their times of need, so forth. So I wanted to ask you, Will, this is quite very connected to Islam as well, right? This relationship we have with our neighbors and our community.
Yeah, completely. I mean, my research focuses on Muslims, so I have to explore, how does faith play a role in these dynamics? And what we've seen in the recent years is a lot of people start to understand Islam from the perspective of stewardship. So in khilafah in Arabic, because there's this verse of the Quran saying that human beings, so not only Muslims, everyone, we have been sent here on earth as stewards for the whole of creation. So not only the people around us, but also, the animals, the plants, the environment, everything. And what does it mean? It means that because we are able to make conscious decisions about our actions and the words we say, we have to ask ourselves, how can we be a mercy for those around us? Are we improving the lives and the world of the things around us, or are we, on the contrary, spreading chaos and destruction? That's a very, very simple questions I'm asking me every single day. I make decisions to figure out, am I on the right path or not? So it's all about understanding that we're here to support those around us, even if we think we don't have any power, or we can't change things. Yes, our tradition tells us that it is actually possible to do things. It's our duty, because even small actions can make a big difference. And we have this wonderful saying in our traditions that even if the apocalypse, the end of the world, comes upon us and we are holding a sapling in our hands, we should plant it. And that's so powerful. So it's all about planting seeds, because it's all about doing our best. The consequences, the impact of our actions are not in our hand. We just have to worry about what is the best we can do at that very moment, with the people and the things around us.
That's such a beautiful reminder to us all that kindness can have such a huge impact. And that kindness, not just in physical action, but also just the way we speak or the way we behave, our manners can make a huge difference as well. Your research, Will, how long did it take to kind of come to the publishing of the book, and what was that process like for you?
So this is a research I've been doing for the past 15 years. So I started during my master's, actually. But the book itself, so it's my second book. I started working on it during the pandemic. And, academic book publishing is a very long process. So it got only published in 2025. But basically, my research has been covering everything between 2009 and the recent years, 2024, 2025.
And this research, did you see a shift in the Muslim behavior from because it's across 15 years, pre-pandemic, pandemic, and post-pandemic?
Yes, there's a lot of shifts in many, many different directions. And I think what has impacted things the most is the social media, and how do people connect with each other, relate to each other, but also, all the different narratives you find on social media. And it is a very, very difficult space, because you have some very horrible narratives being peddled on social media, and lots of people fall for it for different reasons, because people, sadly, it's a paradox. The more information we have access to, we also live in a time, in a society that doesn't give us the right time and the right tools to just, pause, sit, and reflect. Is this information we're seeing on social media actually legitimate? Is it true? What are the sources? What is the agenda behind the things we are offered on social media? Especially, the shorter the content forms, the videos, the image, the less context you have access to. So it's about we have to almost make a conscious effort every single day to try to decipher, decode the information you're receiving. Because we've seen a lot of very harmful behaviors, and sadly, because it's always the most controversial things that get the most engagement rates, all the very good initiatives, people who bring hope and practical solutions, that are very often under the radar, because the most powerful solutions are not the most tacky. They're not very appealing. They're not Instagrammable in a way, and people are chasing the dopamine hit. So it's not going to happen just it's going to be a very slow process, but it's getting there.
Indeed, it's all about aesthetics and what looks good, and what is more appealing visually, and that draws people in, unfortunately. And short form content, unfortunately, has been associated with research suggesting the negative neurological impact it's having on young people, in particular children. and it's something that's actually worrying researchers as well. And it does worry me, because I feel that I'm quite impatient. I'm not sitting, it's that dopamine hit, which I feel is impacting me too. I don't know if our listeners can relate to this. We are heading to a break. And after the break, I will still be joined by Dr. William Barilo, who will be talking to us more about this extraordinary subject and his research. We'll also be talking about mental health too, as well, and safe spaces for Muslims, in particular Muslim men, and we'll be reflecting on some of the amazing projects that Will has created, and also his social media handles. So much to talk about, and we'll also be finding out how we can get access to this amazing writing that he's done. If you've got any questions, folks, please feel free to send them over. We will be joined by Brother Will, straight after the break. We're heading through a break. Do not go too far away. Join me straight after this. Assalamu alaikum.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته وبسم الله. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدوامها وإن قل. That the most beloved action to Allah is those which are regular, even if little.
आज के इस मसरूफ़ और गहमा गहमी के दौर में रिश्ता ढूंढना किसी मुहिम से कम नहीं। ये एक मुश्किल काम है, लेकिन घबराइए नहीं। इंस्पायर एफएम रिश्ता नेटवर्किंग के साथ मिलकर कम्युनिटी के इस मसले में आपकी मदद के लिए अपनी खिदमत पेश कर रहा है। ये 13 दिसंबर हफ्ते के दिन सुबह 11:30 से शाम 4:30 बजे तक क्रेसेंट हॉल बरी पार्क में होगा, जिसमें आप अपने अजीज़ व अकारब के लिए रिश्ता ढूंढ सकेंगे। हमारे पास महदूद नशिस्तें बाकी हैं। आज ही रजिस्टर करें। मज़ीद मालूमात के लिए rishta-networking.co.uk विजिट करें।
Why do Tops Pizza deliver the top pizzas in Luton? For a start, all the toppings are 100% halal and Tops use fresh dough every day. Then there's the cheese, the highest quality available. And when it comes to food preparation, cleanliness is taken as part of our faith. So that just leaves the taste, choice, and great offers, including buy one, get one free on all medium, large, and extra large pizzas. Tops Pizzas, Wellington Street, LU1 5AA. Order online, topspizza.com or via Just Eat. Download our app or call 01582 72 5000.
You can always rely on Mercedes-Benz vans. When it comes to safety, our intelligent technology keeps your business moving, which also helps keep insurance costs, repairs, and downtime to a minimum. And right now, you can rely on us even more, with savings from £1,200 to £3,600 across selected models. Call your local, reliable dealer to find out more today. Subject to status, T's and C's apply. £1,200 off Citan, £2,400 off Vito, £3,600 off Sprinter. Offer ends 31st of December. Mercedes-Benz Finance.
Leagrave Heating Supplies. With over 20 years of experience, we're the largest independent plumbers merchant in the area, specialising in all types of plumbing and heating, as well as combination boilers and megaflow cylinders. Whether you need a new bathroom or a complete new heating system, LHS is the place. Come along to our brand new bathroom showroom at Unit 1, 3 Chorlend Lane, Luton, to see the latest range of quality bathrooms. Or log on to leagrave.net. We're an Interpart approved stockist for all genuine spares. Our new store in Bedford is now also fully opened. Leagrave Heating Supplies. Call Luton 84 86 88.
Celebrate in style at the Grand Royale, Luton's premier banqueting hall, offering elegance, luxury and seamless event planning. Host up to 750 guests with top-tier catering, stunning decor, photography, videography, hair and makeup, DJ, dance floor and expert event management, all under one roof. Whether it's a wedding, birthday or corporate event, let's witness the happy family moments together. Call 01582 551913 or visit grandroyale.co.uk today.
It doesn't take much to bring some difference. You give some change, which makes a change. Because nothing gets mileage like a charity. Just a little change turns into a chain. And before we know it, the results are massive. So give a little to make a big difference. For donations, call now. UKIM 0207 387 2157.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:30.
Catch a creative vibe on the Urban Cube with Sister Shamiza.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and assalamu alaikum. It is 10:30, the 1st of December, and it's an absolute pleasure being in your company this morning on the Urban Cube Show. We are going out to the wonderful people, Luton surrounding areas, Peterborough Salam Radio, and Sheffield's Link FM. Thank you for staying with me on the second part of the Urban Cube Show, where I'll be having conversations with my esteemed guest, no other than Dr. William Barrylow, who is a sociologist bringing deep insight into culture, belonging, and structural challenges. And we are talking about his recent publication, academic publication, which is around British Muslims in the Neoliberal Empire. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them over to us on 07779 481822 or leave them on Facebook, the Inspire from Facebook page, where Brother Will is present as well. And he's waving to the camera, folks, so you can see him live on Facebook. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Will. Thank you so much for staying with us on the Urban Cube.
Walaikum salam, Shamiza. Thanks for having me.
As always, it's an absolute pleasure to hear about your research, which has been done with so much conviction as well. And it's just been fascinating for me reading some of the context around your findings. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners would like to know, how could they access this academic research that you've done?
So since I started doing this research, I set up a YouTube channel because I'm aware that not everyone has the money to buy books or even the time to read books and articles online. So what I've decided to do is set up a YouTube channel and translate the contents of my research into shorter, more accessible form of content. And this is why I've released a video series about all the chapters in the book with all the examples I mentioned, so people can access it for free in a very simple manner. So because my argument is a lot of research stays in these like books in libraries, which only students can have access to. But I entered this world of higher education because I wanted to transmit knowledge. I wanted people to know and get practical solutions to the problems of this world. So this is, I believe if you are an academic, you have to make sure your solutions are transferred to the people so they can do something with it.
And I love this contemporary modernity that you're adding to your academic findings. You're not allowing dust to gather on the books, the academic research. You're actually making it accessible to everybody through the YouTube channel that you've been documenting on. And how has that been received by the viewers?
I think it was a very pleasant experience because I was able to reach much more people than students I was teaching to at university. So it's really wonderful. It's often people who do not necessarily have access to higher education as well. So I'm really, really happy of the impact it had, and people who were able to access very complex ideas through this very simple format and understand that, oh, this is what is happening to us. Oh, this is what we can implement as solutions in our lives. So yeah, I'm really, really happy of this decision of mine.
And a lot of people might be wondering, oh my gosh, like you said, that their level of education, the context of the language, that might just go over their heads. But I have to point out that when I was reading some of the extracts on your social media, it was more poetic than academic. It was a beautiful relationship between the two, a lovely balance. Was that deliberate?
Thank you. Yeah, completely. Because same thing, I believe you don't have to speak in a very complicated way to express ideas, even if they're complex. I always had in mind when I was writing this book that this is a book that can be read by some artists, some community organizers that wonder about, these same problems and same solutions. But, if you stay too much in the theory, how can the average person understand? So this is why I'm trying to mix theory but also practical ideas. So when you see something a very complicated or complex concept, you also have an illustration, an example. What does it look like? What does it mean practically?
Indeed. Now, apart from the YouTube channel and the actual academic research, are you going out to the public and doing panel discussions?
Yes, but not any kind of panel discussion. So one wonderful thing is, since the book was released, it was 100% community events. So the kind of events you set up in ISOCs, in mosques, for ordinary people also to come and talk about these problems that are ultimately concerning every single person here in this country. So I was really, really happy that we had such a diverse audience connecting with this work, because it is not something I want to do only at universities and stuff. This is a message that has to reach every single person. So that was wonderful in that regard.
Amazing. Now, if there's anybody listening to the show presently and they want to go down the academic research route and have their findings published, what advice and guidance would you give to them?
Don't do it. No, I know. It sounds paradoxical because I've been there, I've done that, but no, the industry. We need to think about the higher education and academic world as an industry. It's not what it was 20 years ago. It's not about knowledge anymore. Now it's all about profit. It's about experience. So, which means that if you are going to publish an academic book, you're not going to make any money out of it. Some people even spend money on publishing academic books. So it's not like mainstream publishing, and you have to do a lot of the marketing work yourself. The publisher is not going to do anything for you. So this is a route people usually now take for adding a line in their CV, because academic publishers, they also publish books that are very priced at an extortionate price. Because their target audience is not ordinary people, it's university libraries. So if people want to publish, I would say go for a mainstream publisher or a semi-academic publisher, if their goal is to reach a wider audience, because the industry is not going in the right direction.
And it's interesting how you have kind of made it quite multifaceted, in the sense that you're taking your academic research and you're making it visual as well. And what about the audio side of things? You're documenting it visually. You've got it written down. How about audio?
So funnily enough, I've got people emailing me and messaging me on YouTube saying that the way they've enjoyed my content was to listening to it when they were doing exercise or when they were driving. So just listening to the audio, because some of my videos are kind of podcast format where I have guests that come to my home or I come to theirs, and we record 1 hour discussion. And I have longer videos as well. So I was really surprised to see that, this is something also people do. People like listen to YouTube instead of watching it.
And it seems to be the way at the moment. People are always on the move and they just want information accessible to them whilst on the move. And talk to us about these spaces that you've created and the people that you've interviewed on your YouTube channel. Who can we look out for?
So my idea was to invite every single person I've spoken to during my research and have them speak for themselves instead of me, reporting on their work as I did with my book. Them talking firsthand about their experience, their life journey, like how did they got their ideas? what were the challenges they have faced in their journey, and what was the impact of what they did. So because there's no better way for people to learn from others and find inspiration than listening firsthand to the people who've done the job. So this was my idea. Every single person in initiative I've encountered in my research, try to have them a longer conversation on the channel.
And you know what's super humbling is you did a call, you thanked many people who you'd done research on. And I think a lot of what I'd understood from this is that these individuals, it was just so normal. They were just being normal in their normal day-to-day life. They didn't feel that they were any special than anybody else. And this was who they are. The humility of the participants was extraordinary.
Yeah, because this is, I think, what I'm really passionate about. The idea that ordinary people can do wonderful things. And this is what I think, what the message I wanted to express in my book. You don't need to be, a very like someone who is like rich, famous, or powerful to do wonderful things. It can happen to anyone, and it can happen to anyone as long as we have the right intentions and we make the right efforts in the right direction.
Indeed, and that's, I think that's what makes this such a remarkable read. And I recognise so many names in your research, and I've had a lot of those individuals guests on the Urban Cube, so that made it even more special for me reading those names. I'm like, I totally get why Brother Will has interviewed them, because there is something quite special, so simple but very special. And I think what was beautiful is that how these creatives were able to balance their faith and creativity so beautifully, and it was so entwined and interlinked.
Yeah, because I guess, their creativity is part of their faith, and their faith is part of the creativity. So, there's nothing more natural for them, I guess.
Indeed. And these are spaces that I think are really important to celebrate and showcase and get people to engaging with them. And talking about spaces, I wanted to ask you, do we have enough safe spaces for the Muslim community to kind of express their creativity and who they are?
Yeah, I think it's getting there. It's obviously very, very difficult to create these kind of spaces because people need physical spaces, they need community hubs, and it's not, you're not going to find this in the workplace. You're not necessarily going to find this at uni, except maybe in some ISOCs. You're not going to find this at the mosque or the madrasa. So where do people go to? And so since the early 2010, and even before that, you had people, families opening the doors of their homes to people to gather, to talk about various things, whether it is society, whether it is the arts, whether it is about faith, and many other topics. And we've seen slowly this evolving into more, I would say, formalized community hubs, like a Rumi's Cave in London and some others, because a lot of the organizations I talk about in my book, even though they're not defined as community spaces, because of the work they're doing, they create community around them. Whether it is, a charity serving meals to the homeless, people go there for serving people, but eventually it becomes a community. The volunteers, they bond together. Sometimes, the beneficiaries also, they take part in the organization. So it becomes a whole ecosystem that is being created.
And these ecosystems are so important, and we cannot underestimate how valuable they are in the well-being of our communities. And well-being is something that you are very passionate about, and especially the well-being of men, Muslim men. You've created opportunities and gathering men together.
Yes, because one thing that I've noticed is, in our society, people are feeling more and more isolated. It's paradoxical because we are supposed to be, we're super well connected with social media and everything, all the technology. But the fact is, lots of people find themselves really isolated and in survival mode, because we are caught in this 9-to-5 routine. We have to pay the bills, pay the rent. And where do we find the time for friendship? Well, just learning new things. And because, the fabric of the society is getting so thin, and this is something I need too. So I decided, let's do something. So this is why I partnered with Rumi's Cave, and we've created a men's outdoor club, which is once a month we gather and we do some outdoor activities, whether it is hiking, whether it is bushcrafting, foraging, go-karting, clay pigeon shooting, and it's all about learning new skills, but also building, trying to find this sense of brotherhood that the society doesn't let us have in a way, because this is something people need intimately. We cannot live in a vacuum. That's impossible. That's inhumane. So the question is, how do you create these spaces? And it's 100% experimental. I'm sure we've been learning this for almost a year now, and let's see how it goes.
And can folk from Luton join in this space that you've created? How can people get information about it?
100%. So the way to do it is to go on Rumi's Cave website and keep an eye on the men's club events. And once people take part in an event, or they can ask the staff at Rumi's to be added on the WhatsApp group we have, and where we will share information about our upcoming events.
You spoke of brotherhood, Brother Will, and I want to ask you about your experience of brotherhood when you first came to Islam, and now you are, mashallah, a Muslim for over a decade or so. You're married, you have children. How has that brotherhood supported you?
It's a tricky question, because what do we mean by brotherhood and stuff, and because the thing is, we, from our tradition, we are supposed to be there for each other. But the problem is the society, the current economic climate doesn't allow people to be there for each other. It is just something very, very, very hard. And it also depends on the country. In France, for example, I had a really wonderful experience. I really felt I had a family outside of my blood family. But here in the UK, people have different priorities. The context is very different. It's not as easy to see each other as in France. For example, just think about the cost of transport. If I was to go into London, where just 30 minutes away, a return ticket is now almost £30. That's completely crazy. In France, if you were to do the same journey, it will be something around £5. So it's just technically much more difficult for people to see each other and be around each other. It's an uphill challenge. And my question was about what can we do despite these difficult conditions to still maintain a sense of community.
Indeed. And that's really interesting. You pointed out the fact that transport costs can impact how often we see our loved ones. Now, I have often questioned whether I can actually afford to make journeys because of the cost of transport, and that kind of delays my connection with whomever I wanted to meet, because I'm saving a bit of money to make that journey. Yeah, that's a very, very interesting point. And it makes sense that you pull the point out as a sociologist, as an academic, and you are able to identify this. What is the most profound conclusion that you've made through your research?
There's many of them, but if I was to pick one, is that trying to make efforts in the right directions boils down to a very, very simple question. Why are we here on earth? What is our mission? Because this is something they know that even in religious spaces, this is not something people necessarily talk about it. We're very much about the ritual aspect of our faith, fasting, praying, and so on. But I think this aspect, the meaning of existence, is something that I think people need to talk a bit more about, because, and the answer is very, very simple, because in our tradition, so where I mentioned about the concept of a khilafah, us being sent as stewards on earth for the whole of the creation. But, if as Muslims, we say that we follow the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The thing is, why was he sent on earth in the first place? And in our tradition, there's this saying that he's been sent as a mercy to the whole of creation. He was not only sent to us like Muslims, but to or humans, but the plants, the animals. So if we are saying that we follow his example, what are the effort we're making in every single day? And the question is very simple. At every action I'm about to undertake, every word I'm about to speak, every decision I'm about to make, I'm asking myself the question: so am I, by doing this or saying that, am I being a mercy or not? And that's a very simple question, has solved so many problems in my life and helped me make the right decision every single time. So I think more awareness should be put onto these existential questions, because these are the answer of how can we lead like godly life, good lives, and being also good for everyone around us and for ourselves.
Indeed, some great words of wisdom there. I want to ask you, how then are Muslim creatives valuable to our society or our Muslim communities?
It's not only Muslims. It's when we talk about creativity, it's always about trying to express things that we feel that we cannot express with just words. It's this is why we have poetry, we have prose, we also have visual arts. Arts have been very, very important for people to be able to express themselves, but also it's a way for people to comment on these issues, to point out things that they may see that is going wrong, and also provide people with hope. For example, I really enjoy the works of art that are very future focused, that are making us dream and hope and imagine new futures where we might not come across the same challenges we have now. Imagine a future without poverty and racism, how it would look like without all these systems of oppression we're living under. Because we need to think about the long-term goals. And if we cannot imagine things, there's no way we can put the first steps in that direction. And actually, we live in a system that it's by design prevents people from dreaming. It tells us that we don't have any other alternatives. We have to buy these consumer goods. We have to behave that way, look this way, think that way. But the human experience is all about escaping these mental cages, and art is, I think, the most powerful means for us to escape these boxes, these categories, and imagine a future we want to head to.
As a parent, mashallah, you've got a lovely little toddler. How do you see the world for her?
It's at first I thought it would be a very complicated task, but it is actually very, very simple. The way we treat our kid, it's just the same way we would treat dear family members or dear guests. The only difference is they just don't know anything about the world, and we're here to guide them, to provide them the knowledge they need to navigate the world. Because ultimately, they're going to be independent human beings. They're going to make their own decisions, maybe their own mistakes. I mean, I hope not. But for me, it's all about teaching them all the things I know and I didn't know when I was a kid, because my parents, they were immigrants. They didn't teach me anything about the society or even their own mistakes. We didn't have this tradition of storytelling in our family. So I want this to be present in her life, because knowledge is key. You cannot navigate the society and avoid the traps and the challenges of the society if you don't have the right tools. It's just like climbing a mountain without proper gear. It's going to be raining, so you need to have your waterproofs. The terrain is going to be very harsh. You need the proper boots for that. And my parents didn't give me this kind of gear for ascending the mountain of life. So my mission is just providing her with the right tools, the right gear for her to go on this journey on her own as well.
And inshallah, may it be a beautiful, safe journey, and may Allah keep His light upon her. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you, and you are great as a storyteller. And you mentioned the word about your parents not giving you those stories, handing them down. How important is storytelling and archiving our stories?
that's extremely important for us to, remember what has been done before, because a lot of the questions we're asking ourselves, you have lots of people who have experienced the same problems and the same challenges in the past, and the question is, where do we how can we find these answers if we don't document the things we're facing right now? How will the people who come after us, like the children and the future generations, will know? So this is why I think it's super, super important to maintain, be able to talk about anything and everything in detail, and keep a trace of what has been done, even if it seems small. And one key example, one wonderful example in this regards is the Everyday Muslim Heritage and Archive initiative by Sadia Ahmed. So she has, for more than 10 years, started the first and only British Muslim archive. So she has collected handwritten letters, pictures, films, testimonies, books, like all the things that have been left by the elders, the people who have before us, to kids could know about this history.
Indeed, she's doing a brilliant job. It is the end of the show, Will. It's been an absolute pleasure having you join us, and thank you so much for everything you do. We've got about 15 seconds. Do you want to share your social media handles quickly before we go?
If you go on YouTube, that's my main thing. It's just my first name and last name, William Barilo. Instagram, uk.muslim.sociology.
Thank you so very much. It is the end of the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Coming up next, Awaz-e-Haq with Hafiz Ijaz. This is Inspire FM.
Inspire FM.